Hello and welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Atlantic City here from New Jersey. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Nate Price, and we are entering into round 11 here. John Stern on the right-hand side of your screen.
Old school Canadian pro.
Indeed, he is playing a deck that we haven't seen yet until this tournament. At least I hadn't. It's a hexproof Auras deck. We were calling it kind of like a draft deck yesterday. It looks like this sort of compilation of kind of spells that you wouldn't normally see at a high competitive event with some really kind of staple cards like Geist of St. Traft.
Yeah, a bunch of first picks and a bunch of 14th picks.
Exactly. He's playing against Zen Kikuchi-Wellman, who's running a deck that we know exists as a large portion of the metagame. We just hadn't actually had it on camera yet, which is blue, white, red, flash. It's sort of the evolution of the blue-white flash deck, and he's on the left-hand side of your screen.
Unfortunately for Zen and the upgrade to blue-white-red, mainly the reason that people chose to add that red to the deck is to give them some game against the they needed early spot removal to deal with some of the early creatures in the format. But the other backbone than the auras that you'll see in Stern's deck is the fact that most of the creatures in it have hexproof. So the addition of that spot removal isn't really going to provide that much of a benefit.
All right, so he names Cleric with his Cavern of Souls, and he plays a Geist. Is that a 2/2 Vigilance Knight there from a Selesnya Charm that we see?
I believe so.
I don't see the Selesnya Charm,
graveyard.
but that's the only. I just missed when he cast it, but that's got to be it. So he gets to untap with his complement of creatures here. Yeah, it is in fact a Vigilance Knight token, and he's starting to need 8 damage here. Now, Restoration Angel is certainly a possibility, but that's where cards like Spectral Flight come in handy, and if you get an Ethereal Armor with any other aura on the battlefield, also that's good enough on the Geist of St. Traft to just power right through it. An Angel.
Yeah.
All right, and there's one right now. It's an Ethereal Armor. And Zen says, before it resolves, I'd like to read that card, because I think I've passed a bunch of those in draft, but all right, looks like it's going to get rewound here, so rewind from Zen goes on the stack, and John says, sure, you can rewind my
free
my
counter
12th
spells.
pick, yep. And he's got 2 more mana left over for a Spectral Flight. And does Zen have another counter spell to keep this Geist from becoming a 4/4 with flying? This is a big one here. Again, this is what's going to enable this Geist of St. Traft to get through a Restoration Angel.
Yeah. It's possible.
And it has resolved as John is going to his attacks. And 10 damage is going to be incoming. John has to decide if he wants to attack with the token as well. He could potentially be throwing it away, but it looks like he decided not to. He doesn't want to throw it right into a Restoration Angel, so he's just going to attack with the Geist of St. Traft and the ensuing Angel token. And he's going to take 8, which is going to drop Zen down to 10.
Zen had the ability there to not counter the Ethereal Armor and potentially counter something to follow that up with.
Yeah, the Ethereal Armor by itself wasn't that relevant.
Because he can kill a Geist of St. Traft with a single Ethereal Armor on it with no
That's
other
right.
enchantments in play with the Restoration Angel.
That's right. So he might have pulled the trigger a little early, since that did seem like it was the only counter that he actually had there.
But at the same time, he also had just seen a Selesnya Charm, so Selesnya Charm does push the Geist of St. Traft up and over blockable safe range, so
fair.
he might not have done that anyway.
Yep. Increasing Savagery on Geist of St. Traft now is going to add 5+1/+1 counters to it.
Eggs meet Hexproof Basket.
You got 5, right? All right, you played your land.
Another reader.
This is just funny.
I picked that one a little higher, though. That's
Yeah,
a
I
little closer.
also did. And again, he's going to attack, and this time he's attacking, it looks like, with everybody.
Aaron Martin.
That is a 9-power Geist of St. Traft,
Man,
plus
man.
the 4/4 Flying Angel, and then the 2/2 Vigilance.
Zen's
So
gonna make his
Zach
decision.
needs to block 2 of these creatures, or at least the Geist of St. Traft, to not die. He has to block. If he blocks Geist, then he takes a pretty big hit of 6 and puts him down to 4 here, and the Geist is still going to live.
It looks like he's thinking about Azorius charming the Angel.
The Angel token.
Yeah.
Now it looks like he's got a
Okay.
second Restoration Angel, and he's going to chump the Geist, and he's just going to block the 2/2 to only take 4. And it's going to drop him down to 6 life, and he's still just facing lethal. This deck just operates on an axis that is really, really hard to interact with in this format.
Certainly does. I mean, your creatures are always ultimately going to be bigger than your opponent's creatures, so they don't trade fairly in combat, and they can't be targeted by most of the removal spells in the format. So you're
Now,
left
one of the
with-
interesting things about this particular matchup is that Zen also is running Geist of St. Traft. That's one way to get rid
That's
of
pretty
another
important.
Geist. And, you know, it's not the most popular card these days. It does see play, but it's not like a staple like it once was. So this is actually interesting. If he can draw a Geist, and if he has another land in his hand, then he can take out that Geist of St. Traft. It's one of the only ways to really get rid of a Geist, as Liliana of the Veil isn't seeing that much play in Standard right now.
He's got another of his delaying tactics in his hand with a Feeling of Dread, but that doesn't really do him a whole lot of good in this situation.
Feeling of Dread, that John's deck just sort of laughs at it. All right, Abundant Growth is going to draw him a card. That's also that's used to fix his mana. It's used as a cantrip to help get through his deck to get to his more important spells, and it pumps up Ethereal Armors, as we saw yesterday with David Ochoa, as John enters the red zone once again.
I think his correct play here is to block the Geist of St. Traft, just take the 4 damage, use the Azorius Charm in his hand to cycle through and just try to find a Supreme Verdict.
I mean,
Is
he
he
cannot
running
beat that
Supreme
Geist
Verdict
as
main
it
deck?
sits. I would doubt it, but I haven't looked at his list.
Yeah, he's not running a Supreme Verdict main
Yeah,
deck,
so it's going to have to be
he's
Cycle Azorius Charm to try to hit a
Geist of
Geist.
St. Traft.
No, he tapped his mana wrong, and John astutely told him that. Now he's drawn a card, and he's drawn his card for the turn. Is one of these a Geist of St. Traft?
Does not look like it.
He has to find a way to get in
Yep.
front, and he cannot. As once again, we see this Aura's deck just hit and hit hard. It can win very, very quickly as well. Get a look at John there. And yeah, I mean, this deck is legit.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, it does not look like it's something that you
Look
would
at Zen.
expect to be
Look at his
incredibly good.
face.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh,
All right, man.
How do I lose to this?
All right, now we're moving over to Caleb Durward and Pat Cox. We saw Caleb Durward for a small amount of time yesterday.
He's playing green-white.
green-white.
Mm-hmm.
And his opponent is Pat Cox. Just finished second place in Grand Prix Denver recently.
And he's playing
He's
red,
playing-
white, blue as well.
That he is, yep. So I was happy to get both of them in a feature match this round.
He got a top 8 with just blue-white flash
Mm-hmm.
late last year, and certainly suits his style. He's extremely patient with the deck. I've watched him play it quite a few times now,
It's definitely
and I'm assuming that this deck plays similarly enough.
this looks like a spot that he is behind in, to say the least. Down to 4 life, facing down lethal damage.
With a Thragtusk Beast token, a Restoration Angel, and an active Garruk Primal Hunter.
Yeah.
Now, Pat does seem to have a reasonably big Runechanter's Pike going there, probably 4 or 5 or something like that, but
Not 16.
not 17. Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like Caleb would just plus minus his Garruk's. I think I see 1 loyalty counter on it.
So he's probably refilled his hand with 5 cards there off of that Thragtusk. Is that
Yeah.
what we were assuming?
That's what I'm
Ladies and
thinking.
gentlemen, if you still want to jump in.
Might have been 3 cards, but
Super Sunday Series sealed deck event. There's still time. The deck construction's going on right now.
You're 4, right?
This is an opportunity to play a booster draft to get you a trip out to Wizards of the Coast, playing a cash tournament out there.
Assuming
As
based
well
on
as
Pat's
an opportunity to
finagling, he might have a
next to
Snapcaster
Wizards of the
Mage.
Coast. If you'd like to play in a sealed deck tournament, the cost is
right, is this going to be a big Sphinx's Revelation?
I think it could be, all right.
Indeed.
That event.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 6.
That's what I see too, yeah.
All right. I mean,
6 negates the attack.
yeah, the
and
life gain is relevant only for this turn, as he's still under a lot of pressure. But the 6 cards is
And he is
It's
running
gonna
a
be
copy
huge.
of Supreme Verdict. He's also, let's see, his 1 Mizzy Mortars is in the graveyard, and I don't know if he has. See if does he have 3 red sources in play? Is that a Sulphur Falls underneath that Hallowed Fountain in the middle?
I think so. Yeah.
So he has outs to a Supreme Verdict, and
All right, he's going to Caleb's going to Restoration Angel the Thragtusk so that he doesn't lose it, and also so that he gets a Beast token and even gains some life out of the deal.
that's kind of problematic.
Yep, and he's going to draw 6 cards for Pat Cox here, so obviously a huge swing in his favor if he can find the right answer.
His best bet right now.
He's still way behind on board.
Yeah.
Does Pat run Supreme Verdict
got
in the main? I know that
one
he
Supreme
did
Verdict
before.
main, and does. Oh, I don't see it in his graveyard. He's got a Mizzium Mortars, his lone Mizzium Mortars in his graveyard, and 2 of his Snapcaster Mages. So his outs here are to draw the Supreme Verdict or one of the Snapcaster Mages, so that he can Snapcaster Mage into Mizzium Mortar Overload. Unfortunately,
And that would take out all the beasts and the Restoration Angels plus
those are
Thrag Tusk,
plus
and it would
Tristani.
leave not Tristani. She's
Oh,
5.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but
The Supreme Verdict would be.
yeah, Supreme Verdict would be much better than Mortars here or Snapcaster, but he would take either one just so that he's not dead. He's still at only 4 life, even after having gained 6
Yeah.
last turn.
And even if he does manage to Snapcaster back the Mizzium Mortars, he leaves himself with 8. I mean, in either situation, he's going to have the beast that's left over from Thragtusk still to deal with.
Yeah. Now you see that's Pat Cox's graveyard that's creeping down into the battlefield area, but none of those cards are in his hand or in play or anything like that. He's just has them spread out so his opponent and we can see exactly what's going on with his yard. He he plays a Thought Scour, digging. He's got a land for the turn. Can he come up with something? You know, an Azorius Charm to gain life on his guy might be something.
That's not nearly enough. He's facing down 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 20, 22 points of damage. He's facing down enough damage to kill Caleb in 1 turn.
Right now.
Yeah. This is funny. I heard Caleb say, well, I played Tristani to play around Mizzium Mortars because then you're still dead.
Yeah.
And Pat goes, yeah, no, I just didn't know what the card did.
Yeah.
He just wanted to read it. More draft first picks making their way to the table here. That is
Yeah.
just a one-of for Caleb. Tristani's a legendary creature, so even though he thought it was nice to have one, he didn't want to, get stuck with 2 in his hand
Yeah.
or anything like that. And Tristani looks pretty good right now, although he doesn't really need it. He just needs to turn all his guys sideways and not have Pat Cox get there. All right, so Pillar of Flame's going to take out Garruk Primal Hunter. So that's a start for Pat, but he still is facing down very easily lethal damage, even though he does have a second Augur of Bolas.
Yeah, I mean, he's got lethal damage in the ground, lethal damage in the air.
All right, now Pat has passed the turn back. Is Feeling of Dread a card that Pat runs?
Does not look like Feeling of Dread is in
Yeah,
the
I didn't
deck.
think so. So he could just be going through the motions. Let's see what he's got here.
Gentlemen, it's about time to present your next. Are you ready for them to go on camera 1?
All right, another Garruk Primal Hunter is going to be cast in the first main phase for Caleb Durward here. He still has a Gavany Township activation available as well.
Draw 5.
All right, he's just going to sacrifice Garruk Primal Hunter immediately to draw 5 cards thanks to Thragtusk. And you can see he's got a huge grip, and this is why we've seen Garruk Primal Hunter start to take a big stage here in Standard. He's going to go to attacks, and I'm sure he's just going to ship everybody.
Can't see a reason not to.
He's thinking about it. Yeah, there he goes. Just gets in there with the whole team.
That's probably going to
Then your mulligan.
Zen's mulliganing in the other match, it sounds like.
Yeah. All right, Snapcaster Mage is going to come down. What is he going to get? The Azorius Charm to give his guys lifelink? I'm assuming?
No,
Just to take out the Tusk? Is that enough? No, it's not enough.
as
He's
it
still
is right
lethal.
now, he's still taking lethal.
Yeah, very easily
Even
lethal.
if he might have another Azorius Charm in his hand to be able to remove 2 attackers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might work, because I can't quite see how big that pike is, but it could be huge at this point, right?
It's at least 6.
If he gives his guys lifelink, then he could potentially survive this attack. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it looks like it's 7 or 8. Oh, I see the Supreme Verdict removed from game now.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
He's already cast that, so
And removed it with a Snapcaster or something?
yeah.
How large is this?
I'll try this.
And
8, he said.
I'm not ready.
There's mulligan.
Let's see. I see 4 spells removed,
And one comes up to 11. 11 plus 4 is 15.
but I only see 3 Snapcaster Mages.
All right, he's going to activate his Gavany Township and put a counter on each one of his
If
creatures.
you're just walking in and still want to get into the 9 a.m. Sealed Super Sunday Series tournament, there is still time. Also, we are taking sign-ups for all public events. That's booster drafts, win-a-box, mini
All right,
masters,
Pat's in the
and
tank here, but I'm pretty sure Caleb has this game. Yeah, he does
Yeah,
indeed.
okay.
And we're going to go back to our other match in the feature match area. So Caleb Durward takes game 1 against Pat Cox. And on the other side, we saw John Stern here take game 1 from Zen Kikuchi-Wellman as he had a Geist St. Traff that was a 9/9 with flying.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he's actually bigger than his Angel.
Yeah.
Now you know how he keeps her around.
All right. John Stern's going to name Human with his Cavernous Souls. Cavernous Souls just a fantastic card against the blue-red-white deck. Just all of those rewinds and such.
Yeah. It's also very important, just period, in any deck that's playing Geist St. Traft, because it just fixes your mana and helps you hit it so frequently.
All right. Snapcaster Mage just as a bear
Yep.
for Zen.
We racing, boy.
Yeah, we're racing, so he's going to attack, but I don't like his chances racing against John Stern's deck as it can put up huge chunks of damage really quickly.
This is true.
All right, it's going to be a Moorland Haunt for Zen.
Please come to the gathering place.
You know, that's a difference. That's a huge difference between the way that these two decks approach things is, you know, Moorland Haunt grinding out tokens versus just punching you very, very hard in the face.
Well, I mean, they both do the same thing. It's just done in different ways. Like, one uses auras that explosively, like, it just gets it on faster. The other one hits really hard, too. Like, the Flash deck still hits hard. It just hits hard with Runechanter's Pike.
Sure.
It just takes longer to set that up than it does to go aura, getcha.
Yeah. All right, Spectral Flight after a Rancor. Hit you for 5.
This is basically a redo of the Spirits deck that we saw at
Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah.
That's right. It really is. That was a block constructed event, but we saw Godenis, Vidigiris, and Sam Black come up with this kind of wacky Spirits deck, but it hit the format at a different angle,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what this one's doing here as well. It's just these creatures are very hard to deal with. I mean, Supreme Verdict is a way you can do it, but you know, an astute player can put just enough pressure on the board and then undo it, and then just immediately reapply that same pressure with a second threat plus a few enchantments.
Yeah.
All right, Thought Scour target me. Pitch a couple of lands, get a fresh card here.
Thought Scour is one of those brilliant little additions that makes the Flash deck really run.
Yeah, it really is. Love that card.
Cycle through your deck, give you Snapcaster fodder, and fills up your graveyard for Runechanter's Pike.
All right, we are going to see Detention Sphere on Spectral Flight here. That's probably not the reason why Detention Sphere is in that deck, but hey, it works.
I can't play any more Spectral Flights. Oh, wait, no,
Yeah.
it's not Nevermore.
No, he can.
Yeah.
Might have been sandbagging one even.
Oh, man.
All right, Forest for John. Let's see what he's got if he can. Because right now the Invisible Stalker's not bad.
No, not at
It's
all.
a 3-power guy. Unblockable plus trample's kind of funny, but
Yeah.
all right, he's got an abundant growth to draw a card.
Zen has 3 copies of Nearheath Pilgrim, which I would be very surprised if they didn't make their way out of the board to give him an opportunity to actually try to race this deck.
Oh, okay.
Yet another reason to actually get rid of the Spectral Flight, because then that means if he does manage to get into that situation and he forces John to start defending, John's creature will trade.
All right, so second main phase. This is after an attack. He's going to run out Geist of St. Traft. He's got 2 hexproof guys, and he's threatening a heck of a lot of damage here, although that Snapcaster Mage is going to play pretty good defense on Geist if John doesn't find an aura or some way to make that Geist bigger.
It's still 3 points off of lethal.
Yeah, so you guys are +4.
Which means 2-turn clock as it sits. That's even with the Geist not getting any bigger, just jamming an Angel in there.
Yeah.
Zen looks like he wants to attack with that Snapcaster Mage. If he does, then Supreme Verdict, right? Did you say that Zen does have access to Supreme Verdicts out of the
You don't know
board?
that from your
Yeah.
bathroom breaks.
I was looking at the wrong sideboard too. Those Near Heath Pilgrims are in John's deck, so yeah, he's got a single Supreme Verdict in his sideboard. Zen doesn't have those Near Heath Pilgrims.
Okay.
Good man.
Yeah, Near Heath Pilgrim makes some sense out of the board for John Stern, as he could
Yeah.
play it on a key turn and just get in one huge hit of lifelink, and then he's gotten his value even if it dies later.
Yeah.
Zen just passes a turn back, so it doesn't look like he's got the Supreme Verdict here. One Spectral Flight away from victory here, potentially for John Stern. Let's see what he's got. He's got a second Invisible Stalker. That's an interesting play. Any reason why you'd play that? Maybe just trying to bait out a counterspell or something?
Oh, okay. True.
All right, he's going to play Ethereal Armor on his Geist of St. Traft.
Have it not matter eventually.
And another ethereal,
Oh, wow.
ethereal Armor is going to represent, let's see, that's 1, 2,
lethal.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not quite lethal.
Well, with the Angel.
10, yeah,
it
you're
is.
right, 10, yep. All right, but it looks like Zen has a Snapcaster Mage, and I think he's going to Thought Scour himself.
Yeah, it's 11 damage actually.
Yeah. All right. Mill 2, draw 1, and
Leaves himself the ability to kill the Angel for this turn.
with Azorius Charm, you mean? Or
Yes.
if he has one, does he?
He's got one in his graveyard. Isn't that what he hit with? Oh, no, he thought scoured out of his
He
graveyard.
thought scoured, yeah. So he doesn't. So I think that John's just attacking for lethal here.
Yeah. Probably should have used that
Yeah.
to buy himself at least another turn. I mean,
Just shakes his hand, and then he finally drew the Geist that he wanted before. Again, Zen's deck's one of the few ones that can actually deal with an opposing Geist of St. Traft because of the Legend rule. So,
Is this a mulligan?
all right, we're going to get moved over to the other side as we see John Stern finish off Zen Kikuchi Wellman here. And again, this Spirits deck seems to be a really, really tough thing for this metagame to handle.
I was going to outrace you with like this.
Let's take a look back over at Caleb Durward versus Pat Cox. We know that Caleb's up a game. For those of you that's joining us here in Atlantic City, we are in round 11. This is technically round 2 of day 2. We did round 1
You'd
yesterday.
have to fill it out, but
Caleb is on a green-white deck of his own building. We know that he's quite a brewer. He comes up with some interesting twists on the format, and he is having some success with his straight green-white build. He's playing against Pat Cox, who's on blue-white-red flash, which is a evolution of a blue-white flash deck that Pat had a lot of success with at the end of last year. So he's certainly comfortable in this type of deck, although he wasn't able to overcome
it's good.
Caleb's
Yeah,
massive board presence last time, as Caleb starts building up to similar things this time with a Loxodon Smiter. Cannot be countered, just confidently slams the brick on the table and says go. And Pat is just going to pass the turn back. See a couple of Angel of Serenity in Caleb's hand. He now plays a Gavany Township. That won't be active until next turn if he hits his land drop, though.
sounds to me like Pat might have mulliganed on this game, gone down to 6.
Okay.
They're discussing the various virtues of that Loxodon Smiter.
Yeah, John wanted.
It's a little bit less effective against Pat since he's running the Mizzium Mortars, but at the same time, he admits that he's not running very many, so.
Yeah.
Box 17.
And as soon as he's able to put one more counter on it, it's going to be a bit of a problem until he can get rid of it with an Azorius Charm.
And we see that Pat agreed with you as he just runs out a Supreme Verdict. Caleb on NSEP is going to flash him Restoration Angel, however.
Keep the beats off coming.
It's a lot of respect for the Smiter.
Mm-hmm.
Takes out really a key card for Pat Cox.
It's very interesting. Caleb's deck is very similar to the bank control decks that we've seen. Instead of using the blue base that you see for Sphinx's Revelation, it's just running Garruk Primal Hunter as its source of card advantage. And it's gaining its extra life with cards like Centaur Healer. Those usually come out of the board when it absolutely needs to, but it has the ability to kick into another aggressive gear, running a full 4 Loxodon Smiters. Tops out at Angel's Serenity.
My apologies.
All right, Caleb gets to go to his untap. They've resolved a little life total discrepancy there with the judge, but no big deal. And the Angel's going to knock Pat Cox down to 10 here, and a Thragtusk is going to follow up. See if it resolves. Both players sitting at 8 and 2.
Looks like it will.
Wow, it does resolve. All right, so Caleb is representing 8 damage here, and he actually has lethal on the table thanks to the Gavany Township. But a second Supreme Verdict is going to leave Caleb with just a 3-3.
It's 2 of likely 3.
All right, Thragtusk number 2 hits the table for Caleb. Is this one going to resolve? It does. Pat Cox does not look like he has counters in his hand, so he's letting that go. And Pat is all the way down to 7. And once again, Caleb Durward has lethal on the table. And a third Supreme Verdict, though, again leaves Caleb with just the one Lonely Beast token left. He's going to battle. Pat's going to drop down to 4, and Caleb has a 7 drop with Angel of Serenity. He's going to be able to get back 2 Thragtusks and an Angel. Jeez, and it does resolve as well. So it looks like Patrick Cox, having used up all 3 of his Supreme Verdicts, is in a really, really bad spot here.
Yeah.
It just looks like he hasn't been able to get any traction this game. He's been able to wrath away Caleb's board presence 3 separate times, but
each time a little present was left behind.
That's right.
One of the virtues, we don't even need to talk about a Thragtusk, like the fact that it just survives through removal. Yeah.
All right, and Pat says, yeah, you got it, man. So just relentless beatdowns from Caleb Durward here from the feature match area, and he gets by Patrick Cox to improve to 9-2.
Judge Jake Kazadovitz, when you're available.
The guilds of Ravnica continue plotting, so myopic in their quest for power that they're unaware of our machinations. Under my stewardship, House Dimir will assume dominion over this city. Toward that end, the Simics' ability to evolve and adapt could prove an asset. They breed new predators without thought to the prey they might hunt, and the marginalized rule. The clan's explosive violence can provide the finest cover for our covert dealings. The Orzhov Syndicate skillfully restored the facade of piety, but are driven as ever by base pursuits of wealth and power. Throughout, my Dimir agents hear all and see all, gathering secrets from the shadows, never attracting the attention of those righteous enforcers known as the Boros Legion. Its platoons will be kept busy with other, less subtle crimes. My path will be made clear. No one of this world can stop me.
And welcome back to coverage here from GP Atlantic City. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. That's Nate Price, and look who finally showed up.
Who?